Hi, I'm Norman MacIsaac, diagnosed with ALS 10 years ago. I worked my entire career in international development, supporting local organizations. I learned from them how to face the odds and how to fight for their rights. So I've been prepared for this fight. I've taken part in 5 clinical trials, and I know the mindset needed to survive and thrive. I joined the ALS Quebec board 9 years ago and joined shortly thereafter on the National Advocacy Committee with the ALS Canada. I'm also a member of the PALS of the International Alliance. I gave a TED Talk in 2019, got my book published shortly thereafter, and still find the time to travel to various locations with my wife. Most of all, I've had the privilege to see all of my children graduate and to welcome my first grandson and my first granddaughter, because for me, it's all about hope.
Hi, I'm Leanne. I've travelled here all the way from Brisbane, Australia, an accomplishment I could never have achieved without incredible dedication from my allied health team. Back in 2017, I was a fit and active personal trainer, group exercise instructor, coach and professional speaker who had spent more than 30 years in the fitness and wellbeing industry. My world was turned upside down when at the age of 53, I was diagnosed with ALS. Since then, I've worked tirelessly to make sure ALS doesn't stop me from living an awesome life. Just being here in Montreal this week is proof of my resilience and determination. Preparing for this trip has been a long 6 months in the making, and it's all thanks to the incredibly skilled team I've built around me. Together, we developed a personalised rehab program which included intense breathwork training to improve my lung capacity and pass the altitude test to fly, speech therapy, and a head, neck, and jaw specialist to tackle the muscle tightening with the use of tools and exercises which aim to maintain effective breathing and swallowing, as well as adopting a tailored physiotherapy program to support me throughout the ultra-long-haul flights. Believe me, it really has taken a village. My being here today highlights why it's so important for those of us living with ALS to build the right team. A team that is on the same page, dedicated to the same goals, and has the utmost commitment and belief in the capacity of their clients to achieve the things so many people think wouldn't be possible. I know my life with ALS would look very different without my allied health team working together. I am forever grateful for their expertise. It has enabled me to achieve things beyond anything I'd ever imagined. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stacy Lewin. I live in the United States in the greater Philadelphia area in southern New Jersey. I was diagnosed in February of 2021 with sporadic limb-onset ALS. My wonderful husband and 2 adult sons are my greatest champions. Prior to my diagnosis, I worked for over 20 years as an obstetric anesthesiologist, a profession I truly loved and miss every single day. When I got my diagnosis, I was completely overwhelmed. And I know how to navigate the medical system. I could not imagine how patients without my background must feel. Completely lost. I did not want my diagnosis to be for nothing. I wanted to use my experience as a physician and a patient to help change the landscape of ALS. My multidisciplinary team at the Temple Center for Hope recognized this and immediately jumped into action to get me involved in many activities. Through them, I became a NEALS ambassador. They got me involved in the congressionally directed medical research program as a consumer reviewer. And through the wonderful Sarah Feldman, my physical therapist at the Center for Hope, I am here with the Alliance. I'm so happy to be a part of this battle. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leah Stavenhagen, and I'm 31 years old. I was diagnosed with ALS in 2019, and at the time I was just 26. Since my diagnosis, I've become pretty involved in advocacy. I started a group called Her ALS Story. Today we're over 120 women located globally, all diagnosed before age 35. It's a very special network. That we come together to both find community and also to help raise awareness for better treatments. Today I wanted to share a story with you about something that happened about 6 months ago. So for context, at the time my ALS looked very much like it does today. That means I was in a wheelchair, using a breathing machine. My arms were there simply for show. So I was at an ALS event. There was an event to raise money for research. There were some researchers there. After a glass of champagne or two, someone came up and introduced himself. He was a researcher who'd been in the field for years and years. He said, "Let me guess what's going on with you. Do you have a spinal cord injury?" And I looked at him, waiting for his face to change to say that, he was joking, because obviously I had ALS. He wasn't. He was totally serious. So I'm saying this, I'm sharing this with you today to say how important it is for people working in the field to recognize the incredible heterogeneity of this disease. ALS could look like me, but it could also look like Stacy or like Paula. They're like Leanne, but it's so different. The symptoms manifest very uniquely for each individual. I hope that as clinicians and as researchers, they're able to take this type of information into consideration. I hope that the clinical trials to be designed to incorporate the complexity, the uniqueness of each individual's ALS. Then there is also in the clinic that when patients are able to receive care that is optimized for the way that their disease is progressing.
Hello, my name is Paula Trafiak, and I am from Regina, Saskatchewan, which is located on the Canadian prairies. Try to say Saskatchewan 5 times fast. I grew up with the knowledge that ALS is how we grow old in my family. There's not a single moment in my life when somebody in my family hasn't been affected by the disease. I have been a caregiver for my great aunts, my cousins, my father, and now I have ALS. I started showing signs and symptoms at the age of, Could have been earlier, but I knew my signs and symptoms were definitely ALS before I turned 28 years old. And at the time, I was pregnant with baby number 2. Very scary time. It would take a number of years before I was able to get diagnosed. I was finally diagnosed in 2016 at the age of 34. And at the time, we didn't have a neurologist in the province. We didn't have a multidisciplinary clinic. I had to travel to get answers. I was very, very lucky later on that year to have been called to start participating in a clinical trial for a drug offering an open label extension. And that was the Valor trial. Long story short, I was able to start receiving this drug, and on the open label extension, in March 2019, I started to receive the 100 milligram dose of what we now call tofersen. And within the first 6 to 9 months, I started to see improvement. Now, when I started the 100 milligram dose, I had issues with some lip droop on this side. My ankles were frequently giving out on me. My hands were weak. I was throwing tools around, threw a few knives around. My husband didn't appreciate it. He didn't let me cook anymore. And within 6 to 9 months, I started to see improvements. My ankles weren't giving out on me. My fasciculations and my cramping weren't as bad anymore. In fact, my husband couldn't feel them in bed next to me. That was great. I started feeling better. I started going to the gym. Next thing I knew, I regained 6% muscle mass. I could wear my heels again, which I'm wearing today. 5 years later, I have maintained a lot of this reversal, which is absolutely fabulous. And I don't know how long this is going to last, let's face it. But I'm here using every single moment I have to advocate for people with ALS, to advocate for my children and the next generation, and doing as much as I can while I can.
So I'd like to thank you very much for all of your introductions and some of your important messages. You've been kind of tasked today about spreading the word and sharing your thoughts about how we can do things better. I'm going to ask you last to give you time to write on your iPad, but my question really is about the message you're sharing now, and why is it so important for you to be able to tell this room full of fantastic people what you want them to hear. Now, Norm, you have a slide. I wonder if you'll be able to put Norman's slide up, please, because I'll ask you to start first.
I'll explain. I was diagnosed in December, and I spent all that month talking with family, traveling, researching ALS, and getting answers. And in January, I went to neuro for a second opinion. And I remember Dr. Getch told me, we have an interdisciplinary clinic, and we could potentially help you live better and potentially longer. And I remember she told me, I have patients who've been living with ALS for 10, maybe 20 years. And that's all the message I need to hear from her. Hope.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think I have to also... You've got more.
I'll quickly go back. We all know the benefits of holistic care, one-stop shopping. You know, we also have at the clinic complementarity with private government services. So Kate is at every clinic talking about the ALS Society. Also, their coordination with the Rehabilitation Center to try adoptive age. Access to global trials is key. And the one thing we don't mention is the importance of Rita. Rita, who is the office coordinator. There's so much paperwork to do with the ALS. And I don't think we value Rita enough. Finally made it my parachute. The ideas for improvement, we can always provide better psychological support. Ideally, there would be osteopathy and chiropractic care as well. And pain management could be better integrated. And I can see. Also, empathy is complex. We give you a guide we'll never read, but so you, as healthcare professionals, need to remind patients of the next step. Knowledge of alternative treatments, at least informing them of the ALS untangles and how to dose and use cannabis properly. And finally, for researchers, I met researchers who never met an ALS patient. That's very important. And finally, one final suggestion is maybe do an annual review with patients at every clinic. Thank you.
Thank you. But there's some very important messages, and I think we've talked about pain management a few times, and I think it's something we need to, as you say, work very hard on to improve. Stacy, may I ask you what it was and why, what was so important in your message? Why did you want to share that?
Thank you. As I progress, the disconnect between who I am in my head and who I am on the outside grows larger and larger. My wonderful multidisciplinary team, the ALS Hope Clinic, I'm not being paid to say this either, even though they're all here. I realize is this. They're helping me to mitigate that disparity, which is so important to me. Not only the things I mentioned in my video that I'm involved in, but also observational studies such as brain-computer interface. I'm involved with playing the gala, I partake in their walks, so much more. It is an understatement to say that the ALS treating community has no easy task. The heterogeneity of the presentation of ALS, each patient presents differently, makes it so challenging. However, there is also heterogeneity in how we react to our diagnosis. And that is huge and equally important. Whether you want a pen or a drink or you don't want it, even if you want or don't want a wheelchair, these things have to be recognized. So my ask is this: please educate your patients so they can make the best decisions of what they believe their quality of life is. No one can tell you where quality of life is but yourself. And when they make that clear, help them find the resource if you cannot supply the opportunities themselves. Thank you.
Stacey, thank you for your insights. I think it's so valuable because there are very few people who have been on both sides of the healthcare and using the system. So your insight is incredible. Thank you. Paula, may I ask you what is so important? Why is it the message you're giving? What is that? What's the reason for that?
I was in a really unique situation when I was diagnosed with ALS. I had my care providers telling me, why bother get diagnosed? Why bother? Because there was nothing they could do for me, is what they literally told me. There's no cure, there's no treatment, so why bother knowing this? It's better just to keep going on your way. But I'm thankful I did pursue genetic testing, and I also pursued testing to see, whether or not I was symptomatic. And the reason why it mattered was because I was now on a list of people who had my variation. My genetics counselor had that. And when somebody called from the neuro to my genetics counselor saying, hey, do you know anybody with this gene? We now have a treatment. My genetics counselor was able to say, yes, I know some people, or I know this person. And that they contact me, hey, we now have a treatment for you. It's in a clinical trial, but it's worth a shot. Do you want to participate? I said yes. And if I hadn't been tested, if I had not followed that advice, I would be dead by now. I wouldn't have survived this long. So I think as care providers, researchers, we need to be working with people, working with families. And even though they're, especially, those C9 people, we may not have a treatment, but we will soon. We need a registry, even if people get tested and they can keep their results locked until they're ready. When they all of a sudden hear, oh yeah, there is something, and at least have that choice to participate later on. But those discussions need to start happening now. And I mean, it takes people some time to come to terms with the decision to get tested. That is heavy, I get it. But those, like I said, conversations need to start happening now so that, when there is something available, we're ready.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. And that's a very powerful message that we heard this morning and throughout the day about the power of research and giving people the opportunity to take part in it. So thank you. Lee, could you explain to us, you shared the story of the researcher. Why was that so very vital for you to tell us about that?
So I think something that I should have mentioned is that when the researcher explained that he was trying out a spinal cord injury, and I said, no, it's ALS. He said, no, that's not possible. You're a young woman. And we know very well that that's not true. I'm in a group with over 100 young women diagnosed before age 35, and I thought, this is a bad situation to be in because here's someone who's dedicated his life to trying to find a better treatments, to find a cure, but he's not taking the full patient population into consideration. Then I want to make sure that the research is being designed in such a way that we're not forgetting huge portions of the population. Of course, we're not going to find something that works for everyone, but everyone should be considered. And then maybe a second part of that is that when we go into clinic, I want all professionals to be considering the person in front of them, right? That individuality that others up here have mentioned. What I want from my physical therapist, But I'll be the same as somebody else. My struggles as a 26, 27-year-old, no longer being able to work properly. I was really concerned about finding huge shoes. That might not be the same if it were my father that had been diagnosed. I think that's super important to consider as well.
Great, thank you. I think that's a really important message for us to all kind of take on board and digest. Thank you. Leanne, are you okay to share your...
Thanks. Substituting now for Leanne. Okay, here we go. I just say listen to your clients and find out what makes them tick. Find their purpose. I love travel, and I was determined to get here no matter what. Everybody from the neurologist to the dietitian to the respiratory, it's a tough word for me, the respiratory doctor, and you name it, friends, relatives said, don't go. It's a big risk. But listen to what the patients say, because it's their... This is Leanne's purpose. Did I do all right?
And...
Oh,
there's more.
Oh, here it comes. All right.
Yes.
Amen. There's nothing else after amen.
And I have to say, I think from yesterday and today, I think everybody's very delighted that you ignored everybody's advice and you worked hard to get here to be with us today. Now, I'm looking at Jess about time. Do we have time for one question? We have time for one question, and maybe to an individual. I don't think we're going to be able to each and everybody answer the question, but is there any questions in the audience? You've left everybody completely dumbstruck. Or any comments, maybe? There's a comment at the back.
I love you all.
We're very happy with that comment. Any other comments, you're very welcome. So I think, thank you for that. That's incredible. I think what we'll do is we will leave it that as it is, but I have to thank you on behalf of all of us for valuable insights, lessons that we're really going to take home and really very much think about. So thank you so much. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a 5-minute pause, don't move, while we all move. We move the lights, move people, and rearrange ourselves. But we'll just be back in 5 minutes. But thank you once again.